Hi Copic fans, welcome to Copic in the Craft Room. My name's Michelle and today we're going to be looking at coloring black hair. There's a lot of ways you can do this. You can base it in a lot of different colors. Today we're going to start with a very simple one that is only using our grays, and so it won't have a whole lot of color tint to it. It'll really just be that rich black hair. We might come back to it on another day and change that up. But find a fun stamp that you want to include some black hair on. Grab some grays markers in your Copic collection and come color along. Here we go. I have picked an image from Tiddly Inks. I'm not sure if I wrote this one down or not, but this is from her collection. And it's this fun little girl who's got an ice cream cone. Some of the ice cream has fallen off, and I've got her all colored and ready for her hair. The reason I chose her for this is we've got lots of long hair to play with. I'm going to do black today, and there's several options for black. You can actually base this in a violet, you can base this in a red, you can base this in a blue. You don't have to do any of those. You can actually just work with your grays, warm grays, cool grays. We're going to go for cool grays, which is probably as straightforward as it gets. One of the things to remember though is that most of the time when we're seeing black, we're seeing shades of gray or different values of gray. We actually don't necessarily see super deep black. So we're going to limit that C9 to very limited areas, and a lot of times I won't use a black marker. We're going to make sure she's got some brighter highlights on this image. Hopefully you can tell we've got some light coming in from the left. You can see that down the left side of her dress, on the little spheres of ice cream on her face. The tops of her shoes are getting hit, so I'm going to remember to make sure she's got some definite highlights over on those edges. And I'm going to work with my lightest first, but I am going to leave some white on this because I definitely want to show those highlights. So I'm starting with my C1, and I'm literally going through, I'm going to go through C3, 5, 7, 9. So if I forget to mention it, those are the colors we're using. I'm going to work from her part out, and then I am going to work all the way from that bottom edge up. The C1 will be hard to see. Hopefully you'll start seeing as I start flicking in with my next layers. The C3 is next. You can start to see where I'm going to add those highlights in, right in that halo or kind of half circle position across the top. It's going to hit here and also across over here. We can also see that hopefully I'm already starting to push back that hair that's right by her neck. That's the part that's going to get the darkest, and there's a piece down here also that is a back layer that we can see. And so those will continue to get darker. We're going to add C5 next. C7 is next, continuing to get darker, leaving that highlight. We're adding less and less of color as we go. Not as many flicks, continuing to work in the direction of hair growth. And lastly, we're going to switch over to that C9. So you can see we've got all those layers of flicking in there. I've pushed back the area right around her neck and shoulders, and then there's another area down by her side. Might need to do a little more pushing there. But I want to soften this just a little bit. I want to be able to see a little bit more of what's going on. And I don't necessarily need this as bright white as it is. So I'm going to tell you how I would do this. I actually will skip. I'm not going to go back down my whole line. I'm not going to hit the 7, 5, 3, 1. I'm going to skip. I'm going to go back down to my 5, and then I'm going to go back down to my 1. So I'm done with my 9, I'm done with my 7, and I'm done with my 3. And before I am finished completely with that 9, I'm going to go ahead and add just a touch more to this side portion here. There we go. Then I'm going to come back with my 7, or I'm sorry, my 5. This is C5. And I'm going to work over these darker areas. And I'm literally flicking again, a little bit broader stroke. And I'm going to flick just a little bit into my highlights. So what that's done is I've softened all of these lengths. I still can see all of that wonderful texture, all those lines I created for that hair, but I've softened it just a hair. It's not quite as sharp, but it's kind of almost corrected some of those mistakes. The last thing I'm going to do is I am going to go back now with my C1, that lightest color. I'm going to do a similar thing, but I'm not going to come all the way down into these darker areas. I'm going to focus from that highlight just in to the edges, so that again, I'm taking it one step, just taking that little bit of sharpness off those edges. I don't necessarily want her highlight super bright white. And that's it. That's all I would do for black hair. I can go back if it's not as dark as I want, add my C9 a little bit more. I can go back and I can add the 100 or 110, the special black. But I know what color her hair is. It's a black. It shows up that way to the viewer. So that is our first look at coloring some black hair. I hope you have learned a few tricks watching and that you will give some black hair a try next time you are coloring one of your favorite images. Thanks for joining me today.